Hey, welcome everyone to our Navoni member-only event. And today we are going to be talking about Dentrix Updates for the first half of this year. And so we're in 2023, first half of 2023. We have already had 3 Dentrix Updates. And so for those of you that have kind of been keeping up with the updates that Dentrix has been doing, at the tail end of 2022, they started renaming the updates. So I don't know if you noticed that. It started with 22 and then 22.1, 22.2. And so now the way that they list their updates is they start with the year that the update was released. So we're now in 23 because we're in the year 2023. So the update is going to start with 23.1, 23.2, 23.3. So the first, second, and third update of the year. There has been an update released in July, which will be 23.4. I still don't have that update yet, so that'll be on our next webinar. 23.4 was released in July, so we're like halfway through July. So I would assume I'm probably going to get it here shortly, so I just don't have it yet. But let's dive in, okay? Just to make sure, just a raise of hands that my audio sounds okay. Is it loud enough? You can hear me, all that good stuff? I guess I should have asked that at the very beginning. Okay, great. Thanks, Shelby. And also, if you do have a question, you can use that little raise hand and I'll call on you. And so let's dive in. I'm just going to give you a brief overview of what Dentrix has done this year so far. So what the updates have accomplished this year is, first of all, with 23.1, 23.2, and 23.3, they have done some signature manager improvements. So I'll show you what all those improvements are as soon as I jump into my Dentrix software here in a second. So if you don't know about the signature manager yet, maybe you haven't even updated yet to 22, is you now have a whole module that will show you all of your unsigned or missing clinical notes, which is amazing because, you know, users like you've been asking for like a signature manager for a long time. And, you know, so it's now coming to fruition, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a couple minutes. Dentrix has also been making some changes to the claim status notes. Now they call them improvements. I don't know that they're an improvement, but they are different. And I'll show you what those claim status notes look like now. My guess is that the claim status notes changes are part of a bigger revenue cycle management module or portal that is coming in the future. So my guess is that the claim status notes improvements is part of a roadmap that is probably going to be part of a bigger revenue cycle management process and system. So I'm excited to see how that is going to come about. And then there's been some really great improvements to the text feature. Now, if you've heard me present before, you know that texting is most consumers' preferred method of communication nowadays. And texting has been and has now like overtaken email now. I mean, we want to text. And so it's a quicker way to get in contact with our patients. It's a more preferred method by our patients. Statistically, there's even been studies that show that patients are wanting to text message, you know, two-way texting with Patient Engage or any of those third-party softwares that you're using, texting is probably the best way that we're getting a hold of our patients. So now there's been improvements to the text-to-pay feature and the texting of patient billing statements. So I'll show you what that is today as well. There is now a new procedure code search. This is probably my favorite new feature, and one of the main reasons why it's probably one of my favorite features is because I asked for it. I think it was 2020. I think it was in 2020 when, of course, all of our Dentrix trainer meetings were all remote. And one of the questions that was asked by our Dentrix product manager was, if you could pick one super easy feature that you would add into Dentrix, what would it be? And my number one request was procedure code search. We really need to be able to search by words instead of by codes. And so I am super excited to show you that today, because that's my favorite thing that's happened. And then you can now make changes to the automatic updates. So one thing Dentrix is doing is that they are releasing updates about every, I would say, 8 to 12 weeks. And also you have the ability to be a little bit more in control of when Dentrix updates, when they don't. If you want automatic updates turned on, if you want them turned off. So I'll show you how to do that. And then finally, there's a clinical note count. It's just a little sidebar that you can see, okay, how many clinical notes are missing, how many clinical notes are unsigned. It's kind of just a little quick view at a glance. And then you can open the full signature manager to see exactly what the details are. So I'll show you all of that. I'm going to switch over into my Dentrix software. And let's get into, I'm just going to dive right into the appointment book here. So first thing I want to jump into with you is to show you how you can see, okay, what version of Dentrix are you currently on? So a lot of times I'll be working with an office, they'll have a question. They're like, I was on the phone with support. I'm not, I really need some higher level support. Can you help me? And usually the first question I have to ask you is, tell me your Dentrix customer ID and what Dentrix version are you on? Because that's really the best way that we'll be able to help you. If you have questions, is I need to know what version you're on. And when you're on the phone with support, they'll probably ask you that as well. So from any Dentrix module, if you go up to help, just click on help on any Dentrix module and click on about Dentrix. So if you click on about Dentrix, it opens up this window. Now this might look like a very familiar window for you. You will be able to see your Dentrix customer ID. And then you'll also be able to see your installed version of Dentrix here. So this will be able to give you the exact version that you are on. And then what I want you to do is I want you to click on this button right here, check for updates, because this is going to give you a kind of a in control way of checking for your updates. Like, are you due? Do you have any updates that need to be done? So I'm going to click on check for updates. And what it's going to do is it's going to open this update manager right here. Okay. So you will be able to see and open this update manager from your software. And this is telling me that my Dentrix is up to date, or I think I was having some internet issues. So I probably just need to refresh. But it's going to tell you up here at the top if you're up to date and what version might be available. I might have this new July release available. I don't have it yet, but this is 23.4. But this is going to show you here, like what was released recently, okay? So here is this in December 2022, 22.6 was released. And then these are the ones we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about February 2023, which is 23.1. We're going to talk about the April release, which is 23.2. And then we're going to talk about the May release, which was 23.3. Those are the three we're going to talk about today. So one of the things that came about was this automatic update. Okay, and so if you want to check what your settings are, so I was on the phone with one of our members yesterday, and she was like, I want to be more in control of when my system updates. I want it to notify me, but I want to be more in control of when my system updates. And so that's great. You can be in control of that. I have other offices that are like, you know what? I just want it to do it automatically. I want to wake up, come into the office and see that my system updated. So if you click on the little gear, then you'll be able to see what the settings are. So you've got your automatic downloads. You have your automatic update schedule, so you can turn it on, turn it off. You can set it for what time of day do you want it to install, all those kinds of things. You can also decide here, like, do you want it to automatically update minor updates and the procedure code update automatically, but maybe on major updates, just notify me as to that there's a major update that needs to be done. So you're in control of when those updates happen. And that's with the update manager. So you have those settings to decide, you know, how your office is going to install or not install different updates. All right, perfect. Any questions about that? Okay, perfect. All right, so then from here, I want you to just understand that these are hyperlinked. So you can see here, if I click on this February 2023 hyperlink, if I click on that, it's going to jump me out to the Dentrix website, and then it's going to show me just some brief information about each update. So February, here's the April release, and then the May release. So you can see just little tutorials or just brief information about what each update is all about. So that's at your fingertips, available right inside of your Dentrix software. All right, moving on. I want to show you the signature manager because it is definitely one of the premier feature enhancements that Dentrix has been working on over the past 6 months or so. Well, they've been developing it for a while, but they started releasing it in December of last year. So the signature manager, you can find it right on your appointment book or in your patient chart. Either way, so it looks like this little icon right here on your toolbar. You can see it right there on your toolbar. And when you click on the signature manager, this is the current version of Signature Manager. If you are only up to, Dentrix 22.6 or 23.1, your Signature Manager might look a little bit different. So it has been going through some updates over the past several months. In the first version, this whole toolbar wasn't here, okay? So if your version is missing this whole section at the top, that was kind of like the first release. That was like Signature Manager 1.0 was released. Now what you can do is if you do have, let me see if I can pull up, last 3 months. Here we go. And so if you select a patient here, you can jump right over to their family file. You can jump into their questionnaires or their health history directly from the Signature Manager, which is awesome. Acts as like a normal Dentrix module, which is fantastic. And then some of the really cool features that they've been adding over the past several months is there is now a better search tool as far as the date range that you want to look for. So if you just want to look for yesterday, okay, so I came in the next morning, I just want to look at all my patients from yesterday and see, you know, did I complete all my notes from yesterday? And you can also say, okay, I want to see the last 7 days, just to make sure that you're keeping an eye on all your clinical notes for the last week. Or maybe you're just before the end of the day, you just want to check by today, just tell me all the notes that may be missing for today. Maybe I want to do that before I walk out the door and go home for the day. And there's also some filters here. So you could filter by provider. So if you're a hygienist, you could say, just show me all the hygiene notes, all of my hygiene notes that might be missing, or if I forgot to sign them. Maybe I just need to review them, add a couple more details, make sure that my next appointment information is in there, and then I'm going to sign it before I leave for the day. You can also filter it just by missing notes. So just show me all the notes that are missing. Now, one thing I do want to this is just a note, a hint for you, just from being in offices and seeing what the signature manager does. I just want you to know, this is kind of a quick tip here, that if the appointment provider and the clinical note provider don't match, then Dentrix might think that the note is missing, okay? So let's say, for example, that the hygienist was scheduled with the patient, but the clinical note was written with the doctor's provider ID. Then it might think that that hygiene note is missing because the provider IDs don't match, okay? So I just want you to know that, that if you go in and the hygienist sees that their note is missing, you're like, I wrote that note. I know I did. You know, so you go into the note and it's there, but it might just not be in your provider ID. So you might want to just make a mental note of that. The other thing that might happen is if there's 2 notes, or if the patient is scheduled for 2 visits, 2 appointments in the same day, they're seeing the hygienist and the doctor on the same day, and the note is combined into 1 note, then it also might think that one of the notes is missing. So I just want you to know about those kind of things. You know, computers just do what we tell them to do, and you know, it's not a mistake in the software or anything like that. It's just letting you know that this patient was scheduled with this provider, but there isn't a note with that provider in the clinical note. So I'm just letting you know that there's no note for that appointment provider. All right, perfect. All right. So if you have a missing note and you just open up the little arrow, so then you'll just get a little box here that shows that the note is missing. You could write it from here if you wanted to. So I could click on my little notepad there, and then it opens up all of my templates. Okay, so I don't have to go into the patient chart to write my note. I could do it straight from here. So I can click on my hygiene template if I want to, just double click on my hygiene template from here. And, you know, I could go through my template, and I could finish up my note here. My next hygiene visit is, you know, 6 months, prophy, exam, bite wings, fluoride, and perio chart. And you could also create a checkbox for that as well. Okay, I'm just trying to give you some examples. So if this all looks good, my note is completed, I can click on my little sign. I could sign my clinical note. I'm going to put it in my provider ID. I'm the hygienist. And then it locks up my clinical note. I'm all done. I can click close. And then now it's showing that my clinical note is completed. It's now signed. You can see my note here. And, you know, life is good. Okay? I mean, isn't that cool? That's pretty awesome. I'm pretty excited about that. I think that not only does it help our clinical team to go through and check their clinical notes in a much more efficient and streamlined way, but it also helps our admin team. If you are, maybe you are part of the checks and balances, you know, you're just kind of double checking your team to make sure the clinical notes are done. Maybe you need a narrative for a crown that you're sending out a claim for, and you want to make sure that that clinical note is done and complete, because you have to attach a copy of that clinical note to your claim. So you're going to make sure that your doctors and hygienists are you know, doing their job of making sure that that clinical documentation is all in there and ready to go. So not only a really great feature for the clinical team, but also a way of making sure that the admin team is, you know, they know that the clinical notes are all ready to rock and roll when they're submitting their claims that might need an attachment. All right, beautiful. There's also a search box here if you want to search for specific signed or unsigned, so that's available to you as well. I think the date range and the filters are going to be your best friend when it comes to the clinical note. You could also print the list if you wanted to. I don't know the reason why you would want to. I try not to use paper as much as possible, so printing is always like last resort for me. All right, beautiful. Next on the list is you'll see a clinical note count at the bottom here. So you'll see this down here, and it's just kind of a high level, kind of a little ticker at the bottom of your appointment book. Some of you may have noticed that the clinical note count was released in a past update, and you might have seen that it showed up at the top of the appointment book, okay? As soon as they released it there, they did pull it right back. It had some loading issues with the appointment book. I think it slowed the appointment book loading down, and so they pulled it back from the update, and then they re-released it in these latest versions. So now you have it available as an option. And I have to remember how it is on the appointment book, but it is an option. Oh, I'm sorry, right here. Show clinical note count down here at the bottom. You can go up to options and show clinical note counts. Sorry, my brain went blank there for a second. So you could turn that off and turn it on. So you can either have it on or have it off. It's totally up to you. Okay. So the next feature that they've been making some improvements to revenue cycle management for a long time. Probably one of the e-services that I say every office should be using is QuickBill. I started using QuickBill in my own practice, oh my gosh, probably 20 years ago. When QuickBill came out first, initially, it was that we could send our billing statements down to Dentrix. If I go to billing, we could send electronically. So we didn't have to print, fold, stuff, lick envelopes, put postage on envelopes, and mail them out of our office. Okay, so when I didn't have to do that anymore, I mean, that was a game changer for me in my office, because it's time consuming, it's expensive. You should never be printing and mailing statements out of your office. Okay, so if you are still in the paper statement processing, please reach out to me directly so we can talk about that, because not one office should be printing and mailing their own billing statements. Now, I think a printed statement is still okay, but don't do it in your office, okay? Send electronically, and you can have Dentrix print and mail them for you, okay? Much more streamlined, efficient, cost-effective way for you to do billing statements. Now, QuickBill has been around for a long time. Like I said, probably 20 years since I used it in my own office. But there's been improvements with QuickBill over the last, 2 to 4 years, I would say, with email statements came out. I'm not sure which version. I think it was 7.6, I think. Email statements came out. And then text statements is the most recent option. And that is with QuickBill Premium. And so QuickBill Premium came out at the end of last year, and now we can text statements to our patients. We can also do text to pay. And so if I switch over here to my ledger, let me close this. If I am here in my patient ledger, you'll notice that you have a little umbrella right here. This little, well, not the umbrella, but the little bubble, okay? And with a dollar sign in it, okay? Anything with a dollar sign in it, I'm open to that because it's talking about money. And so if I click on the little icon here, this is your payment request by text, okay? This is part of QuickBill Premium. So if you pull up this, then you can send a payment request to any phone number. It's automatically going to pull up the mobile number that's on the patient's family file, but I've tried it with adding a different phone number in here at another office. We were testing it, and you could put in whatever phone number you want here. So let's say that you have, like you're in a college town and you have a lot of college students that come in for their regular checkups, but they're like, hey, my mom pays my bill. So you could send a text request to mom's cell phone, and then mom could put in her credit card number and pay her college student's bill, through a text message. And then when you're signed up with QuickBill Premium, that text payment comes right into Dentrix and posts automatically to your patient ledger. So super fast, efficient, streamlined way, cost-effective way of improving your accounts receivable and getting payment on the day of service. Because if you've heard me talk before, if you have taken my Managing Your Accounts Receivable course, you know that we have to be collecting on the day of service. If your accounts receivable even goes past 30 days, past due, you have already lost about 15 to 20% of the value of that money. So it's really important that we collect on the day of service. So text to pay is a really great way to send a payment request directly to someone's mobile phone. The other thing with text statements, and I don't have e-services on my tutor database, so I'm going to open up my the Dentrix website here, because they have a really good screenshot of the statement right here. So you can see here what the text statement looks like. And so you can also see another thing that they improved. I'm just going to try and blow this up just a little bit. You'll see, I'm just going to try and put a circle around some of these things. Right here, there is an add text consent for guarantors. So you do need a consent to use text to pay. Now, if you already have a consent for electronic communications in your paperwork, like your new patient forms, then you're good with that. But this is, maybe you need to add an extra like the patient has to consent to receiving this text to pay link. Now, another thing that you'll get, this is your sending your billing statements. This is what QuickBill looks like now, which is flipping amazing. Everybody should be using QuickBill, like I said. But here, what you'll see is the mobile phone number where they're going to get that text statement, and also their email address is right here. You'll also see that you have a little add button. If you want to add their mobile number from here, you certainly can do that. And then let me show you a couple other things. Let's see. It doesn't show it here, but there's another column. Because you can see there's a slide bar. There's another column that you'll see here when you have QuickBill, and there's a status column. So the status is, has the patient opened the email? Have they paid? You'll see, like if you send a statement run, if you do a statement run and you're sending email, you'll be able to watch it change, the status change from sent to opened, or sent to delivered to opened to paid. I've seen this happen like within a minute, which is awesome, which is unbelievable. So you can get paid that quickly with an email or a text billing statement, okay? Because if you send a paper billing statement, number one, it could get lost in the mail, okay? We know how reliable our United States Postal Service is, okay? I use the Postal Service a lot, okay? They're a good institution, but we do know that things get lost in the mail. We also know that things will sit on the counter for weeks, okay? You know, I have statements sitting on my counter right now on my desk, you know, bills that I need to pay. And if I get a paper statement, it will take me longer to pay it than if you send me an email or a text. It's just human behavior at this point, okay? Because we are a nation of mobile phone users, okay? These things are attached to us on our hip, you know, so we are using our mobile devices on a regular basis. So we have to be giving our patients what they are asking for. And text and email requests for payment is one of those things that our patients are asking for. Okay, questions about that? Let me jump back into my patient ledger here, Mr. Brent Crosby. Okay, lots of good stuff. So our last feature update for this year is some changes with the claim status notes. So I'm going to click and open a batched or a sent claim. So many of you know that if you are following up with a overdue claim, any claim that's more than 30 days out is overdue. Insurance companies absolutely should be paying your claims within 30 days. And if they're not, then you need to be reaching out to them. Of course, you can still be using this little red E if you are using Dentrix eClaims and you are using the insurance manager. At the time of this recording, the insurance manager still is part of eCentral, so it is still working. I think that might be kind of developing into a new process in the future, but at the time of this recording, this little red E is one way that you can check the electronic status of your claims. Now, that's not part of the updates for this year. I just wanted to point that out to you. What is part of the updates is the claim status notes. Okay, so anytime you are following up with a claim, like right here, this is where you're going to document your claim status notes. And so if you are going to make a manual entry, so let's say you went out to the payer, the insurance company's website, and you checked the claim status and you found out that it was requesting additional information, or maybe it was denied due to insurance eligibility. Then you could come in here to maybe information needed. I'm going to put my provider ID here, and I could say checked claim from website, you know, denied due to eligibility. Okay, and I could make that note here. I click on the little plus, and then it adds my note. Okay, super easy. The claim status notes will still show up on the insurance aging report. And so you could also make notes. These are not customizable. These statuses are hard-coded into the software. So you'll have to pick which one you want to use. If you just want to use other for everything, you could certainly do that. Now, another improvement that they have made to the claim status notes is if you are using Dentrix eClaims, then you will also start to see statuses that are auto-generated from the system. So it's a system-generated. See here, this is a system-generated status note. This is a manual entry with my provider ID. And so you'll see some other system-generated status notes when your claim has been received by the clearinghouse, when it has been rejected, or if it has been processed or paid. So you'll also start to see some system-generated claim status notes. So like here you might see where it says received, or it might say processed. So those are system generated, which I think is great because with this little red E right here, we used to have to go out and check that status. Now Dentrix has pushed those statuses into the claim status note, so you don't actually have to even go out to the little red E anymore if you don't. If you're updated to the 23, I think it's 23.3 or 23.2, one of those two. So if you're all the way up to date with your Dentrix updates, it now will push those claim statuses from the insurance manager into the claim status box on the insurance claim form on your patient ledger. All right, perfect. The recording or to the updates is the procedure code search. So thank you, Rhonda, for reminding me that I almost skipped that important one. So if you go to the office manager and go up to maintenance, into your procedure code setup right here, then you will find a new search box. So right here, there is now a search box. So I could put in, you know, crown, and it will start to search. Whoops. Oh, where'd it go? All right, where did it go? There it is. Okay. So this is really good for searching for certain things that maybe you don't like products. It looks like, why are my, I know, since I'm on a tutor database, sometimes my software is, what is going on? Let me see if let me open it. Let me open the patient chart. Okay, let's see. Okay, we have a search box here as well, right here. So it's on the patient chart and it's on the procedure code setup in the Office Manager. So you can see when I enter in the word crown, it finds all of the procedure codes that have that word in them. Or maybe I want to search for grafting. So because grafting shows up in a couple different categories, it shows up in endo, it also shows up in perio, it also shows up in oral surgery. You know, so grafting is one that you might have to search for. It's also really good for products. I don't know if I have any products. Like I could search for toothpaste or Sonicare. If I had Sonicare toothbrush, you can see here I got Sonicare toothbrush in there. So it's a really great way that you could search by words instead of procedure codes. And which is really great. Let me see if it is, let me find a appointment that I've got on the, yeah, if I click here, then I can search. There's also a search box here. If I'm adding treatment into the appointment, you know, I can search by words. I can search Sonicare. It pulls up my Sonicare toothbrush code. I can add it to the appointment. So just a really great way. If you don't know codes, you can search by words. So really easy, faster way, you know, because a lot of us have team members that might not be familiar with dental codes, but they do know how to search a toothbrush, or they know how to search whitening, you know, or bleach. Like here's bleaching if you have a bleaching code or something like that. So, you know, some of your new team members that might not be familiar with some of the dental codes, they are familiar with how to search by word. So that could be really helpful for your new team members. So you can find that search box on the patient chart. So here over on the procedure codes list there, you'll also find it in, if you're adding something, adding new treatment to an appointment. Whoops, you click new and you want to add and you don't know the code, you can click on the little arrow. So if you click on this little arrow right here, then it will open up this, and then you can search with the search box here. So, and then it also shows up on the procedure code setup in the Office Manager procedure code setup. There is a search box here. I'm not sure why mine's not working because I always use a tutor database. So there is something going on. Oh, now it's working. There we go, of course. So Sonicare toothbrush, I can find it pretty easily if I want to edit it or I wanted to change the verbiage of it or something like that. So 3 different places you can find that search box. So thank you so much for reminding me that I almost forgot that amazing feature. It was like my favorite one and I almost forgot it. So that is the conclusion of the 23.1, 23.2, 23.3. And hopefully you will be updating your software. If you do need any system requirements, like let's say you're a little bit skittish on updating your software, you can always click in here, your system information, and you can find out what your system information is here and see if it does meet or exceed the requirements for upgrading. Now, if you want to know what those requirements are, you can dive right out to the Dentrix website and go to the, let's see, if I go here to system requirements, and then you click on this update upcoming system requirements, you'll get this PDF download, and it will show you here what the system requirements are for the next update, okay? And this, you wanna make sure that your server and workstation requirements exceed, at least meet, if not exceed, the requirements that Dentrix is asking for your update. So that's really, really important as well. All right, this has been a really good information. I can definitely take a few questions if anybody has any questions. It looks like nobody has their hand raised, so I might have gone through it pretty thoroughly for you all. All right, perfect. Well, I really appreciate you all listening in, taking time out of your busy day to be with me today and go over some of these really great updates. Remember that as a member of the Novoni membership, you can also jump into our Ask the Experts, where if you saw something today that piqued your interest and you're like, I might really want to learn more about that, you can take a course in our library and then join one of our Ask the Experts, which then it's a group coaching session where you get to ask your question and then I can help coach you through it. So I look forward to seeing you all on one of those sessions, and I hope that you all have a great rest of your day. So thank you for sharing your afternoon with me.